Hello, welcome to Filia Triestina. This is the first time we've introduced a product so virtually. Normally, we would do so in meetings with our distributors, dealers, and our end consumers. But the world has changed, and we're living in an extraordinary time, both in terms of health and with regard to the bicycle market, that's experiencing a time of euphoria, perhaps like never before. Our orders have literally doubled, and we're seeing exceptionally high numbers of visits to our website. This took us a bit by surprise, but we wanted to react as true entrepreneurs. In August, we introduced our new 110 SL, in September the 0 SL, and Triestina Hybrid. All three products have been highly successful. But today is different. Today, we want to raise the bar. Today, we are introducing our new top-of-the-range racing bike, Filante. So, let me give the floor to Claudio, our R&D technical manager, who will tell you everything you need to know about Filante. I'm sure this bike will give us great satisfaction, and I hope you'll love it too. Hello everyone, we're here to talk about Filia's new aerodynamic frame. When we talk about aerodynamics in our recent history, we see some true milestones. We introduced the Imperial frame in 2010. At the time, it was a very advanced frame with a decidedly futuristic design that was hailed by sector magazines in several European countries. It was an incredibly unique frame. Then, in 2013, we introduced the 110 Air. It represented an advance in aerodynamics, and we were among the first to introduce NACA airfoils with a truncated tail. We integrated the fork inside the down tube and lowered the triangle to the very limits of UCI rules. This was also a very special frame. The market appreciated it, because over the years it has been one of our best sellers. But we couldn't stop. We pressed on and evolved with the 110 Air. We introduced an integrated monocoque handlebar bend with the cables inside the frame. It had very clean lines in terms of aesthetics, but also offered aerodynamic benefits. If you remember, we launched the 110 Air at the 2016 Giro d'Italia. Then, in 2017, we launched the beautiful copper-coloured 110 Air ridden by Pozzato. It was truly a very unique bike. Then came the 110 Pro, which was actually a slightly improved version of the previous one. 110 Pro is still used by professionals today. I want to mention Niccolò Bonifazio's victory in the Paris-Nice this year, winning a stage at the beginning of the season. But we can't stop here. We have to equip our professionals with top-notch products, the best possible. Competition is in our blood. We had some great victories this year at the Tour de France, so we're motivated to create high-performance products. All our technological advances have taken us to today, to what we believe is the state-of-the-art in aerodynamic frames, the new Filante SLR. Filante is the result of an ambitious project to create an aerodynamic bicycle offering the same riding and weight characteristics as Zero. We revised the aerodynamics in the real world. Obviously, we developed Filante in the wind tunnel. You can't avoid using it. However, the wind tunnel has limits. The wind is very clean. This is good because, of course, the data must be consistent since you have to be able to study every characteristic of the frame. But we know that things are different in the real world. The wind comes from different directions. There are so many more problems than those tested in the wind tunnel. We have the movement of the cyclist moving forward. We have crosswinds that change when you go around a curve. Then, when you're in the middle of the peloton, the other cyclists create turbulence. So the real world is very different from the clean aseptic wind tunnel. That's why we designed a profile that's slightly different from that of the 110 Pro, which was considered one of the most aerodynamic frames in the peloton right now. We still use NACA airfoils that are already part of our history, and we made a sharp cut using the classic cam tail. But unlike previous frames, this cut was actually softened. It doesn't have the sharp edges of the 110. The design is much more rounded. This is a great help in the real world, because the boundary layer, i.e. the wind particles closest to the frame, adhere more to the profile than on the 110 Pro. This means that as we change the yaw angle, the frame maintains its good aerodynamic characteristics. Yaw angle is defined as the result of the cyclist's direction, the wind angle, and wind and cyclist speed. In wind tunnels, we usually study yaw angles of between plus 20 and minus 20, and these are pretty realistic. However, by improving the separation from the boundary layer, we significantly improve Filante's aerodynamic qualities in all real-world situations. After defining Filante's basic profile, we focused on the overall design, like on Turbine and Zero SLR. We maintained a very large distance between the fork stanchions. Wind tunnel testing helped us understand that the wider the fork, the greater the space between the fork and the wheel, the lower the turbulence produced, and the more aerodynamic the bicycle will be. Compared to previous models, for example, Filante is 7 mm wider than 110 Pro, and that's quite a difference. But we also worked on the design of the back. If you look at the bike straight on, you'll see that the very wide rear triangle is actually hidden perfectly by the design of the fork. This is also a little trick that gives us an especially low CX, making the bike especially aerodynamic, in part thanks to this little detail of the rear triangle. Filante's rounded profile also helped us in a different aspect: weight optimization. Compared to a sharp corner design like the 110 Pro, we need less material to build it, and above all, we have perfect control over the resin. We know that carbon is a composite material, i.e., carbon and resin are combined. Removing excess resin is the key to a lightweight frame. This perfectly rounded edge, instead of a sharp corner, lets us work perfectly, remove all excess resin, and reduce the frame's weight. The Filante SLR weighs 870 grams, just 90 more than a Zero SLR. The materials we used to build Filante are basically the same as Zero. We have different types of unidirectional carbon combined with liquid crystal polymer,
al liquid crystal polymer, che è un materiale che permette
which is a material that absorbs the road's vibrations.
della strada. E quindi insomma,
So, by combining them with the technology we used for Zero,
che abbiamo sviluppato anche insieme a Zero,
we have achieved exceptional levels of lightness and stiffness.
e rigidità assolutamente di livello. Se compariamo
If we compare Filante to 110 Pro, Filante weighs 11% less, representing a major improvement.
È un bel salto. Ma importante,
But, and this is important, 110 Pro was very stiff, and so is Filante. So, we have definitely improved the stiffness to weight ratio, because it's kind of easy to make a stiff frame, but it's harder to make it both stiff and lightweight. This improvement is obviously reflected in special riding sensations. But don't take my word for it. Daniele Benatti, Jacob Fusang, and Alexei Lutsenko have been racing on R0. They helped us with product development, testing it in different situations. They were very impressed. Filante definitely offers significant riding performance. Of course, you see the difference at high speeds, downhill, in very tight direction changes, and when accelerating. In short, it's a truly exceptional product. Of course, this feedback is very important for us because it encourages us for next year's series of races. So in addition to Zero, Filante SLR will also be in the peloton. Speaking of sensations, I want to mention something we've been working on for many years. The sensations of one size are replicated across the entire range of sizes. Filante is produced in 6 sizes, so the stiffness, fluidity, and the quality of the ride are similar in both the small and very large frames. This is due to a more difficult way of designing frames. Basically, every single frame has a different tube size. This is because the tube dimensions allow the same performance on both very large and very small frames. The rear triangle is asymmetrical. We've been using this design for many years now. In 2007, we began designing frames with an asymmetrical rear triangle because the chain works asymmetrically. But today, we are also designing the fork asymmetrically because, with disc brakes, the brake acts on only one stanchion. So our fork is now exceptionally aerodynamic and thicker to withstand braking pressure. The cables run entirely inside the new Filante monocoque handlebar. With respect to Alabarda, our first monocoque handlebar made way back in 2016, we have reduced the weight by about 50 to 60 grams while increasing stiffness. Like our Zero handlebar, its construction is perfectly tubular and perfectly closed to reduce weight and increase torsional stiffness. Let's not forget, however, that like the others, the Filante handlebar has a unique design making it perfectly level with respect to the horizon, which again makes it especially aerodynamic. We've hidden something new inside the frame, a small thing, the fork steerer tube. In recent years, we've used a D design. The tube was milled to allow the cables to pass through. Starting with Filante, the tube goes back to being perfectly round. This helps us with stiffness, but it also allows us to pass the cables inside because we've patented a new bearing design. Superfine bearings not available on the market. We designed them, which let us pass the cables through, even though the head still measures 1 1/4 inch. If we look at our competitors, few companies have perfectly integrated internal cables with such a small head. This small head also helps improve Filante's aerodynamics. Let's change the topic and talk about fitting. Today, we have 6 frame sizes and 5 handlebar sizes. Thanks to the perfectly round steerer tube, we'll use 35mm spacers, so we have 240 possible combinations of measurements. Of these 240 points, none overlaps any other. In fact, if we put them in a grid, we see that every point will be no more than 3mm away from another. This is important because every cyclist will be able to find the perfect position by combining frame, handlebar, and spacers. For Filante, we propose 5 handlebars with slightly unusual measurements: 88, 101, 114, 127 and 140 millimeters. They seem a bit odd, but we made them to create that AccuFit grid where no points overlap. As we said earlier, there is no more than 3 millimeters between one point and the next. Again, in terms of fitting, it's important to say that the seat post is available with both 15mm and 0mm setback. So here too, we have several options to find the perfect size. Filante is available in 3 colours: velvet red, iridescent grey, and the classic matte black. For the 2021 season, prices start at €8,200. The bicycle will be available with electronic assemblies and disc brakes. Well, there's not much more to say. You will soon receive a sample for your in-depth testing. We look forward to hearing about your sensations on Filante SLR.